Did it work?
Hey there, marvelous superhero fans! Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the boys. Here are 7 Supes from the boys and Gen V who have the weirdest superpowers. Let's get into it. Anyone can think of extendable body parts, but it takes a special kind of demented mind to imagine a superhero, or villain for that matter, with an extendable and prehensile and sometimes pubic hair that they then put to practical use. I know how it sounds, but that's the thing about the Supes from the boys in Gen V. They often tread the territory of the totally terrible and the tremendously terrifying. With the final season of the boys TV series being aired as of now, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to shed some light on some of these honorable men and women and explore their weirdest superpowers. And when I say weirdest, I mean weirdest in the history of the comic books. So let's check out this list, and you can let me know if I miss someone later in the comments. Let's begin, shall we? Worm. With Worm, I can't really decide what's worse, the power itself or the fact that good guys actually have to depend on it. He's a minor Supe in Season 5 whom Butcher pulls in when the team needs access to a heavily fortified Supe compound, or Freedom Camp, from below. When the whole thing started in Season 5's episode titled 15 Inches of Sheer Dynamite, one could not have guessed how exactly it would turn out, but the series had plans to make the break-in attempt as foul as possible. After getting souped up by Vought as a child, Worm worked as a Supe script writer for Vought Studios until Vought dumped almost its entire writing staff and swapped them out for an AI program. Meanwhile, Worm also sent sexually suggestive texts to Miranda Cosgrove, the actress, when she was 19. These messages, described as creepy, were later used by Butcher to blackmail Worm into working as an informant, an occasional helper for the boys. So yes, even before the tunnel scene, this man was already working for the boys for a while now. Now, the power. Worm can dig underground at high speed by scooping earth into his mouth, compressing it, and firing it through his bunghole. His lower half is smooth, worm-like, and extremely unpleasant to look at. In the scene where he's about to dig, he rips his pants off with ease, points himself downward, and starts blasting soil from his bare ass while the team watches in stunned silence. And if I'm not mistaken, Worm, like real-world worms, is a hermaphrodite, meaning he has both male and female sexual organs. Anyway, after showing the boys his privates, he does his thing and they all crawl through the wet tunnel he made. I mean, tactically it works, but otherwise if I had to go through what they did, I would call it a hate crime. Furthermore, he loves to eat soil and can even distinguish different types of soils depending on how they taste. And yes, he likely riffs off Mole Man and Mulch Diggums, but hey, only the boys thought of weaponizing a man's digestive tract. Number 3. Black Hole. We've seen a lot of body explosions and ripped out genitals throughout the series, right? And then when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Gen V showed me Black Hole, and I conclude that the franchise has lost all interest in dignity. So Wyatt is a recurring Gen V Season 2 character and a Godolphin University student. He has a singularity-like pocket space inside his bum, which lets him absorb huge amounts of matter, store them in his personal void, and pull them back out later whenever required. And that too without harming them or covering them in any kind of stench or yellow stuff. Naturally, even people can fit in there, although they remain compressed with barely any visible expansion. So yes, as a power set, this is clever, gross, and weirdly useful simultaneously. As a young adult, Black Hole decided to pursue life as an influencer, enrolled at Godolphin University, and majored in performing arts at the Crimson Countess School of Performing Arts. But all that is slightly beside the point of this video, so let's dive deep into the juicier stuff, yeah? In the episode New Year, New You, that's the first episode of the second season, we find ourselves at the Gamma Epsilon Delta fraternity house, where Black Hole butt chugs a keg while the crowd cheers. Then he demands another one, gets it inserted too, and Jordan tells him to stop. Black Hole mouths off, Jordan punches him in the stomach, and a wave of beer blasts back out his onto the crowd. Later, Injustice Never Forgets, Modesty Monarch even cites him during her Advanced Influencer Fluency lecture as an example of how Supes can go viral. It gets worse, or better depending on your tolerance for this nonsense. Across the show, you can see people and things coming out of So yeah, this is pretty much what Black Hole does and how he plays with his little superpower. I mean, being a Supe, he also has unspecified superhuman strength, durability, and hearing, but hey, let's be honest, nobody remembers him for those. Nobody cares for those things either. All people remember him for is having a black hole in his
That's cool as hell. Show me.
Well, it's actually not the hair on my head.
Bushmaster. Allie, better known by the extremely unfortunate nickname Bushmaster, is also a student at Godolphin University. Her power is the manipulation of the, well, pubic hair. She can grow it, retract it, and control it at will, and she can even use it like prehensile strands to reach, grab, and restrain things from a distance. So yes, it's basically the old comic book living hair idea, except when Gen V says hair, it doesn't mention which part of the body that hair grows from. This is precisely why Allie is so ashamed of her powers until she gets a good TED Talk. Allie was born in the early 2000s, and soon after birth, her parents agreed to compound V. Later, she went the influencer route, enrolled at Goldokan University, and majored in performing arts at the Crimson Countess School of Performing Arts. Now, in H is for Human, Emma finds out Harper is secretly a starlighter, and that leads her to Allie's dorm room. There, Allie reveals that she and Harper have been flyering and vandalizing parts of the campus in an effort to pull student support away from Homelander and Vought. Emma thinks that it's too small and pushes for bigger action, and Allie hesitates because she doesn't see herself as a hero. Emma tells her she once felt the same way before someone believed in her, and it works on Allie. Like she gets the confidence she needed. Next thing we know, she meets with Emma, helps plan a sabotage, and heads with Harper and her brother Greg to the sewer room. When a guard turns the water back on, Allie uses her pubic hair to turn the valve off again from a distance, which lets Emma keep going and saves her from drowning. Later, she takes it up another level by wrapping Thomas Goldokan with that same hair, subduing him long enough for Harper to touch him and copy his powers. But yeah, kudos to Gen V's creative team for giving a larger purpose to one of the most useless parts of our entire body. Acid Vomit Patient. The boys and Gen V together have shown, like so many Supes, that naming all of them or giving them proper introductions was not really possible, and that's why the Acid Vomit Patient is called, well, Acid Vomit Patient. But after all the bunghole action, I'm sure this guy feels more dignified. He is unnamed Supe, locked up in the Sage Grove Center, and was treated like a failed experiment that no one wants to attach their names to. So, this walking and talking version of an industrial accident had one very self-explanatory ability. His vomit is highly acidic. We've all gotten a case of acid reflux, I'm sure, especially our middle-aged viewers like me, who can't take chug at a boys' night like they used to. But this guy takes that quirk to a whole new level. He can fire a corrosive stream from his mouth that melts through human flesh and can even partially burn other Supes. At close or mid-range, this actually makes him lethal. Furthermore, he has enough strength to bust through a metal door and break the lock. Enough durability to take a kick from Kimiko Miyashiro, and the same enhanced hearing other Supes tend to have. But the sad thing about him is that he's only internally immune to his own acid. In other words, the lining of his stomach, throat, esophagus, and mouth can handle it, but the rest of him cannot. During the Sage Grove riot in Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off, he spews acid all over the place. Then Kimiko takes him down, and his own boon becomes his bane. Once he goes down, that stream pours back over his face and torso and burns him to death. Anyway, that's why he belongs on a list like this. Acid spit sounds like a standard comic book power. In The Boys, it becomes something meaner, sadder, and way more grotesque. It's dangerous, messy, and built with zero concern for the person stuck with it. In fact, Marvel's Zeitgeist also has a similar ability. Laser Baby. So laser eyes, yeah? A very common superpower. Superman has it, most of his family members have it, Cyclops is all about laser eyes, even Homelander can do the laser thing. But then the boys experimented with it further and just made it, as Butcher would say, effin' diabolical. You see here, the person with that power is an unnamed newborn in a secret Vought hospital ward, asleep in a crib, hooked up to Compound V through an IV line. This was one of the first instances when the boys learned how these Supes were not chosen by God, but cooked in labs. In Season 1, when Huey learns from Ezekiel that Samaritan's embrace is a front for Vaught's illegal Compound V shipments, Butcher and Mother's Milk go to a local Vought facility where they uncover a lab full of newborns under IV treatment. This discovery blows apart the public lie into a million parts, and then some. Butcher says it himself.
That's a baby Supe. Chosen by God my ass. These cunts are my lab.
Then the scene gets better or worse, based on your ability to absorb psychic damage projected at you by this show. Butcher takes a small amount of Compound V from the baby's IV bag, guards rush in with assault rifles, and he grabs the infant and uses it like a weapon. Oh god, I remember watching it for the first time. Bloody hilarious. Anyway, he basically points the baby at armed men and triggers the I-beams by jostling the baby. The laser baby fires blue heat vision strong enough to tear through human flesh and bone, and the guards go down. Meanwhile, the baby itself has the durability to survive both its own power and Butcher's rough handling. After that, Butcher puts the child back in the crib, tells it to stay out of trouble, and escapes with MM. Now that I think about it, I wonder what happened to that baby. Like, years have passed in universe. Just hope they close that loop. Harper. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least weird Supe ability and 10 being the weirdest, Harper would be an easy 9. Yet she's the least weird in this particular list, and hence placed at the very bottom. So if you become friends with Harper and spend some time with her, it wouldn't take you long before noticing that tail of hers. She's also a Godolphin student with a long prehensile rat-like tail that she can move like an extra limb, but the thing is, she clearly hates the thing. In fact, like Harper herself says, her actual power is being a chameleon, and the tail is simply a pain in the ass. And I think we should give her that. I mean, honestly, it's both accurate and probably the most normal reaction anyone could have if they had to wake up every day with that thing attached to them. Imagine sleeping on your back. Such a nightmare. Or going to the damn beach. It would be living hell to live with a tail like that. In Season 1, the show uses it for smaller moments. She smacks her friend with it after Marie walks away from a photo request. Later in her dorm, Justine tries to turn Harper's embarrassment into content by pushing her to put the tail in her mouth for views. So, she was kinda like a gag. But then it would be doing a disservice to a good character if I didn't talk about her other ability. Her real power is mimicry. By touch, she can copy another Supe's ability for about 60 seconds. And the strangest part is that she often uses other people's powers better than they do. In Season 2, Harper copies super speed and keeps putting up pro Starlighter posters near Jitterbean so fast that Emma cannot identify her, and campus cameras barely help. Then she ducks into a men's locker room, touches another Supe, copies pyrokinesis, and throws a fireball at Emma to get away. A little later, once Emma corners her, Harper reveals the whole truth in a janitor's closet and copies Emma's shapeshifting powers. She shrinks down to an inch tall, which leaves her naked, then returns to normal and gets dressed. During the sabotage plan in bags, she helps the group in practical ways and uses copied phasing to get access to a locked sewer room in the hotel. That's what makes her power so dangerous. It's not limited to one gimmick. It can become whatever the need of the hour is, given she has someone to copy the powers from.
God damn. Brother's got a love sausage.
Vasily Voroshikin, aka Love Sausage. Love Sausage is the textbook example of how the boys takes a superpower, stares at it for 5 seconds, and then reworks it like a mad scientist on death row working on his final masterpiece. Love Sausage, or Vasily Voroshikin, is a large Russian Supe, a former Sage Grove patient, and a secondary villain whose entire identity depends on his one large, extendable shaft. Sausage, whatever it is you want to call it. Vought used him as a test subject while trying to create a stabilized version of Compound V for adults, and the result was a man with superhuman traits, and an enormous prehensile he can control like an octopus controls its tentacle. Unlike several other powers outrageous enough to disgust a proud evangelist, Love Sausage's sausage is given more importance than a tool for a quick visual gag. Across the TV show, we've seen him use it to slam you or shatter glass. It's strong enough to knock mother's milk out with one hit, and we know that guy is strong. The sausage is also durable enough to pierce through a window and survive a super strength punch from Kimiko, even if that punch did knock him out cold. His first major scene in Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off, is still the best use of the character. Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Kimiko infiltrate Sage Grove, and after Cindy gets loose and the patients flood the hospital, a long tentacle snakes through a door and starts choking poor MM. Kimiko rushes out and decks Love Sausage in the forehead with her brass knuckles. It's then revealed, much to MM's disgust, that the thing wrapped around him was not a tentacle at all. It retracts and goes back to Vasily's crotch. Horrible, hilarious, but a very boys moment. From there, the show kept bringing him back. In Season 3's Herogasm, he appears at the TNT Twins superhero orgy, meets MM and Starlight at the door, and puts the retractable party trick on display, because of course he does. Later, thanks to Soldier Boy's PTSD, we see him holding a burnt, limp, coiled version of his weapon, which meant that Soldier Boy's radiation blast stripped away its prehensile function. And after a short stint in Gen V, it seems he got his powers back by Season 4, after apparently being re-injected with Compound V. He appears in a trench coat at the end of Assassination Run, and uses his tool to knock out Mother's Milk, which leads to MM's capture. Then Season 5, Episode 1, 15 Inches of Sheer Dynamite, puts him on the ugliest side of the board. He works torture and security duty at a Homelander-aligned freedom camp, wears a Vernon correctional officer uniform, and loves to beat prisoners with his extendable sausage that he uses as a whip. MM sees it every day and becomes disgusted every day, but he can't really do jack shit about it because of the tight security. However, during the break-in and attempted rescue at the facility, MM finds the perfect opportunity to track the Russian Super D and slams his D several times with his broken piece of wood. Next, in a bit of poetic justice, MM strangles him to death with his own. And that really is the magic of the boys in Gen V. These shows understand that a weird superpower or a weirder version of a regular superpower is a lot more memorable than a socially acceptable one. And let's face it, the franchise is famous only because it has its quirks and nuances, albeit as I said earlier, they often tread the territory of the totally terrible and the tremendously terrifying. Anybody can give a character heat vision or super speed. It takes a particular kind of deranged creativity to come up with powers that are disgusting, useful, funny, tragic, and embarrassing all at the same time. In Marvel or DC, powers often feel aspirational. Here, powers are side effects, bad branding, corporate experiments, or lifelong humiliations that someone in marketing still found a way to sell. That's why The Boys will continue to be one of the greatest superhero shows ever. So that was all in this one, folks. If you liked the video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. If you feel like I missed one or I should have replaced someone on this list with someone else, you know where to let me know. Stay safe and have a good one.